The question you must ask, what did you do during the sunrise? I did what I was supposed to do. I would have loved to have finished some of the projects that we had. I would love to do more about language, a friendly city. I would love to do more around education, around AI, but there's a sunsetting, and I did it. There's only been 110 of us. Out of all the people that wanted to be mayor, there's only been 110. I'm the second African American mayor. And the romance that we were able to have with the city, it's time to move on.
Welcome to New York One's Off Topic on Politics. I'm New York One's investigative reporter, Courtney Gross. 4 years of swag are coming to an end. Mayor Eric Adams is out the door in just 20 days. We will take a look back with our experts on his 4 years in office and what his legacy might be. And then we're turning to next year's race. That, of course, is the race for governor. We're going to take a look at the Republican primary that is proving to be formidable. Bruce Blakeman, the Nassau County executive, has announced his candidacy for governor. He will face off against the North Country Congresswoman, Elise Stefanik. So a lot to get to. We're going to spend a lot of time, Bobby Cuza, talking about Eric Adams, which
Courtney,
we have for the last couple
isn't
of
it
years.
isn't it swagger, not swag? Isn't swag like the gift bag you get?
Oh, did I mess it up?
But
Yeah, we're not going to redo it.
No, we're not redoing it.
Kelly
So,
Mena.
I knew what you meant. Everybody knew what you meant.
If it makes you feel better, I didn't notice. I didn't notice. So
Our viewers and listeners will
forgive you.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I'm old. I mispronounce.
You're not that old, and it doesn't matter.
Much like Eric Adams.
I'm as old as Eric Adams now.
No,
Kelly
he's
Mena-
Wow.
Kelly Mena you're turning into Byrne, who always makes fun of you for
No,
your
it's not
age,
what I
and now all of a
meant.
sudden we're making me
And
fun
then
of
he-
Ageism is not cool. It's not.
Thank you,
Cool.
Kelly.
He gets things wrong.
I don't
Which
think
is
I've
why I like.
Can I just introduce Kelly? Kelly Mena, Eric Adams extraordinaire, who has been with him in and out every single day for 4 wonderful years.
Yes, I was gonna say that. To your point, I was telling people that one of the things I'm not going to miss is right when he was gonna have a soundbite. You could tell it was like scripted. It was supposed to be only 6 or 7 seconds, but then it would turn into 15 seconds because he would trip up on it and then try to ad lib and then come back to it. And I was just like, you only had one job. Just read what they wrote for you.
I mean, he has had some wonderful, interesting, perplexing moments like that over the last 4 years. I think The Daily Show did this crazy mashup of what he has said, including, talking about, the one soundbite that I feel like always sticks out in my mind. And this, now I'm jumping ahead in what we're supposed to be talking about, but like the most memorable moments of Eric Adams. It was actually an interview with our friends over at Pix. Dan Minorino was interviewing the mayor, and somehow like he was talking about how special the city was, and he said it like you could go shopping or you could do this, and then you could also be in a city where there's planes crashing into the World Trade Center, and everyone kind of their jaws dropped saying, what is he talking about? This is wild. We need to play the soundbite.
New York. This is a place where every day you wake up, you could experience everything from a plane crashing into our trade center to a person who's celebrating a new business that's open.
So let's just start there, actually. Your best moments, most memorable moments with Mayor Eric.
Most
Bobby,
memorable
go for it.
moments.
You
well,
too.
I have like a couple funny personal ones.
Yeah, personal ones
Can
are
we do
best.
personal ones? So I talked about the mayor getting things wrong. One of the things he gets wrong is people's names. Although I feel like he used to do this more early on in his term because he used to be, and this really took a turn, but in the beginning, I feel like he was very playful with reporters.
Yeah.
And he would go back and forth and he would talk about like, he would call on people by name. And one time, this had to be in his first few months in office, I was covering him. He was doing this walking tour of businesses in the East Village. And he's taking a photo with some business owners, and he says to the guy next to him, "See that guy over there? I'm shooting video on my phone. I'm kind of right in front of there." And he says, "See that guy right there? That's my favorite reporter, Bobby Cuza."
And you didn't correct him?
No, it was kind of awkward, but I didn't want to be like, actually, it's
That's-
Cuza,
Bobby, it's your name.
and I'm not sure if I want to be your favorite reporter. Anyways, I don't know like what that says. But then also another favorite one, which I have on camera saved somewhere. We were covering an event. It was actually out in Long Island at this incinerator where the city was going to take all this illegally seized cannabis and put it in this incinerator. And, there was a photo op and the mayor was there and there was all this cannabis laid out on these tables. You know how they do at a press conference. And
it's a big prop.
It's a prop and it's like a ton of marijuana. It's like all these huge bags of weed. And after the press conference is over and they're like totally done. And the mayor is kind of leaving, he's like walking away and he picks up this huge bag of marijuana and he goes, "Bobby, catch." And he like pretends like he's throwing it at me. And I like flinched because I thought the mayor of New York was throwing me a big sack.
And you were like,
cannabis.
"Of course I'll take it."
It was kind of weird. I was like, he was just kind of messing with me. It was funny. But then when I like watched the video, it looks like I sent it to all my friends.
And you told us all about it.
Yeah. So we didn't put that on the air. But,
of course not.
But those are my
reporter receives huge bag of marijuana.
But Kelly had a lot of personal interactions.
Oh, well. I've go back with him a long time. But of his time in City Hall, I think some of my memories covering him in his indictment and going to federal court with him, top of mind because it's so different than all of the other like areas we've covered him where he's like busy talking to people. He's very quiet. He walked past us. He was very serious. So that sticks out in my mind. Also, the cast of characters that he had around him. I think about who he has in his administration now. I'm like, they're so like traditional, like easy to work with. I think still back to the time of like Phil Banks, Tim Pearson, all these people who had such like
Ingrid
Lewis Martin. Yes. I'm just like, those people still stick out in my head of like even interacting with them, trying to get anything out of them. They were like just mean. They would be like, and even they would see me at events and they'd be like, "We're not choosing you," or, like Kelly can ask her question was always a big one. Kelly can ask her questions, but we'll decide if we'll answer them. Like that sticks out in my head. There was my only personal story of the mayor, I would say, is one time we were in Fort Greene and we went to a community center and he was talking to local people there, holding a town hall. And I fell in front of him and he actually grabbed my arm before I hit the ground.
Wow.
Only real personal story I have of him. And I have it on. You can't really see it on my phone, but what was the funny part was all the other camera guys are there and we were trying to get an answer from him about the indictment and different things. All the other cameramen just kept on shooting and the mayor was the only one that reached down and grabbed me before I hit the floor. So that was nice. But I'm trying to...
he still had some...
He's a nice guy.
For you, despite not wanting to answer your questions or give you a sit down or...
Yes, his one-liners also stick out. And then... I'm trying to think. Yeah, his one-liners.
Remember at the beginning, he stopped saying this at some point, but in the beginning, he used to say to reporters, "You guys are going to have so much fun covering me," right?
When does the
hard? I'm like, he used to say, "When does the hard part start?" Yeah. Which he also stopped saying at some point.
So many things.
But the question is, did we have a lot of fun covering him? It was interesting.
I don't know if it was fun as much as like busy. It was just like busy.
It started out being busy from the get-go compared to de Blasio because de Blasio was like, "I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to have a press conference today, but it'll be at 2:00 in the afternoon."
No, and I'm going to get there at 3.
Yeah. And like COVID was obviously very different. That was kind of like clockwork. And when you actually saw it, I don't want to say for the first time, Bill de Blasio start working, but that's when you started hearing from him every day and we had a briefing every day. But Eric Adams coming into City Hall, from the moment he started issuing his public schedule on January 1, 2022, it was like, whoa, this dude's doing 15 events.
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6.
He's supposed to go to all of these events. Yes. So he's literally got something in his calendar from 8:30 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
I was going to say that one of the first events when I came to the unit was like a check that he was presenting to some. I still remember that event because I was like, wait, is this like a mayor? Like, this is an official event? Like, this check could have been presented by like a staffer to the mayor, not necessarily the mayor himself. Right. And I was just like, and then he had like another event, like an hour and a half.
But there's no group too small.
Exactly.
For the mayor to do an event with. And I mean, I don't know if our viewers, listeners know, but like the mayor's office and a lot of politicians put out this public schedule every day, which kind of tells us what they're doing. They don't always put everything that they're doing on their public schedule. And traditionally, I mean, to your point, mayors will have like, maybe they'll have one event every day where it's like a press conference or some event where the media is invited and we can actually go cover it. But the mayor would put so many events on his public schedule that, like you said, we didn't know like when or where to
Which
cover
one
him.
was the one?
And he would talk.
He was almost trying to wear everybody out.
And because he would talk to us. He was so available that it was exhausting.
Yeah.
And it was like, we can't keep up with this guy. And I mean, to his credit, he is like, his stamina is incredible, right? You have to give it to him.
For a guy in his 60s too.
Yeah.
And he used to say, like, you can't keep up with me.
Yeah.
You know, he would almost mock reporters for not being able to work on or operate on such little amount of sleep and go from event to event to event every day.
And he would go to nightclubs.
Exactly. Well, the part is like, what did he say? He's like, I can party at night with the boys
And wake up with the men's.
Yep.
So,
Well,
yeah.
even speaking to his staffers, some of who have left now, they were always like, he's super busy. Like, he works 20 hours of the day, which means you work 21 hours of the day. And like, that was always what his staffers would say. And the events, the thing about the events is you wouldn't know which event would be the one where he says something crazy. I don't want to say crazy. Yeah, I don't want to use the word crazy, but something that's like newsworthy. So I remember even like with Bob, me and Bob would like decide which one do you think is the one where like it's going to be the one. You know, because like I can only go to so many after a while. So sometimes I'd be like, I think it's going to be this one because this other person's going to be there. And like we would try to game out which ones would be the most important. And it's so interesting to me because even with Mayor-elect Mamdani, looking at his schedule, he has 2 things. And I'm just like, this is so different from the mayor who always has like 5 things on there. And you're just like, I don't.
Although that changed, right? That changed at some point. Like
to 0.
Yes. To not even being in the city.
Yes, he's in Boston today.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that covers the personality, the bravado that he came into office with, and then how, I don't want to say how quickly that changed, but as soon as the investigation started, it was that moment when the FBI surrounded him at an NYU event. We weren't there. He was leaving the event and they surrounded his car and they said, give me your phones and your tablet. And that was clear that he was obviously under federal investigation. And it soon leaked to reporters that this had happened. All of a sudden, we were hearing about subpoenas. We were hearing about a potential indictment, a grand jury, and it just continued on and on and on and on to that moment when he was obviously indicted in 2023.
Yes.
September. I'm sure you know the date. What's the exact date?
I don't know the exact. September 7th.
There you go.
2023. Sorry.
Like,
I have to think. I have to think in my head. I have to think.
And that changed his, one of the questions I wanted to talk to you guys about is just what will be the mayor's legacy? What will be the headline of his obituary? And that even though we'll talk about his accomplishments and talk about what he says he has done for the city in the 4 years he was there, but he can't avoid the fact that the headline of his obituary is going to be first mayor indicted.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to overshadow his legacy for sure. And, we can talk about some of the good things he's done and his backstory, right? Like he has a compelling story. He's this working class kid who had a hard Scrabble upbringing. I don't think I've ever said that word out loud before. Hard Scrabble. And,
I think you meant scrappy.
See, you misspeak all the time.
Not Scrabble the game, but scrappy.
Hard Scrabble is a word.
Scrabble is a board game.
Yes, I just.
Yeah. And
it's your age.
And that, yeah, it's a word that older people use. And then, he rose through. He was a cop, and then he rose through politics and became the second Black mayor at City Hall. And then everything turned when these investigations started. And, it was not only him, it was these corruption investigations of all these people in his inner circle, some of whom were indicted, including Ingrid Lewis-Martin. And it just completely derailed his mayoralty. And, I think in the end, his obituary, which is kind of morbid to talk about his obituary.
No, I think about it, let's sum up his
political.
Yeah, sure.
He it's gonna, not only mention the fact that he was indicted and the corruption, but also that was then dropped by the Trump administration when he embraced Donald Trump, right? Like you have to mention both of those things together.
Yeah.
And the fact that is going to be what defines his time in office is unfortunate for him, right? Because, we can talk about some of the good things he did in office, right?
Yeah.
Like there's.
And what a turning point in the party. What a 180, I think, with his relationship with the Democratic Party. I mean, when he had first taken office, he called himself the Biden of Brooklyn. I mean, there was some rumors maybe spread by him or people around him that it was like, maybe he'll be president one day. I feel like every single
I was going to say
just
every
that's the way
mayor.
it always is. But still, there was some legitimacy to that. He had become what he had said was going to be the new face of the Democratic Party after winning in 2021 because he was a moderate Democrat that became really popular and seemed to win over what had always been the winning coalition within the New York City populace, or really the Democratic populace across the country. Voters of color, Jewish voters, hitting the progressive angle too. And he seems to have had it all, and how quickly that fell apart.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that a lot of people also went in with such high hopes for him. They were really excited about him coming into office.
Especially being the second Black mayor. There
That-
was
yes.
so much. Maybe that was pressure. Maybe that was, whatever it is, there was a lot put on his shoulders.
That second Black mayor, excited because he came from Brooklyn. Think about all the other Brooklyn elected. You have the AG, the Attorney General Letitia James. You have Senator Charles Schumer. You have Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. And then you also have the mayor coming from Brooklyn. It was just like signifying this power coming from Brooklyn, the second Black mayor. And for a lot of people was that redemption for David Dinkins, who only served one term, and for a lot of people, David Dinkins had that same idea of like he can serve a second term. They felt like this was their redemption. So many people wanted to come in and serve for Mayor Eric Adams because they saw what happened to David Dinkins, and they had high hopes. He was going to turn around crime. He was going to do lots of things for people of color that many people had been overlooking for a couple of years. And so I think that was the excitement when he came into City Hall. And it's so interesting because I feel like he kind of foreshadowed the ending that he was going to have, which was he said, and I'm going to do 2 terms unlike David Dinkins. And that was always his thing. And unfortunately, it didn't go that way. But I think that's where the disappointment started with once the federal indictment came, once even the investigations, the idea that that there was this federal investigation around him. I think that really disappointed a lot of people because that was the beginning of maybe there's something going on there that we weren't aware of. And it's unfortunate because you don't want that to overshadow all the good work that he's doing. And I just want to update. He actually was indicted September 25th of 2023.
I mean, September 2023.
Yeah.
Can I say, though, you talk to almost anybody in politics about Adams, and they say the same thing, which is that his fatal flaw was bringing all these people into the administration who were loyalists, who he'd had long relationships with, but who weren't necessarily the most qualified people for the job. And you saw this with a lot of the people you just mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah.
Phil Banks was a deputy mayor for public safety, which is not always even a job that exists. And then you had Tim Pearson as a special advisor, whatever his title was. And he had like some oversight over the police department, which is not normal, right? The police commissioner did not have full control, it seemed, of the department. And that's why you saw his first police commissioner, Keishon Sewell, leave.
Yeah.
I mean, reportedly, that's what pushed her out. And she
She's
was
managed.
she was well liked and seemed to be doing a good job. So she leaves. And then, Ingrid Lewis Martin, who was his like right hand, she didn't really have a well-defined role, right? Like she wasn't
Also just like a
it was
senior
not
advisor.
right. It wasn't like your normal org chart. And so he had these people who were close to him making decisions, and a lot of them ended up getting into trouble. And, like, again, that overshadowed not only the good things he did, but also the good people that he hired.
Right. And
I mean, there was a lot of good people.
it's so interesting to me too, because you would think that those growing pains would happen all within the first year, right? Of you brought somebody in, you thought they would work, they wouldn't. But he didn't have that. It took so long. It was by the 2 year and a half, like 2 years and a half in, that he was going through those growing pains. And by then it felt too late. And, it's so interesting to me because of all the people he might have soured with, I think one of the groups that didn't was the business community that still appreciates everything he did for them, all the partnerships that he grew, and
the real estate community in particular.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people. I mean, let's talk about his accomplishments as we wrap up this part of the conversation. One of the accomplishments the mayor says is City of Yes, and the real estate community likes City of Yes. They probably would want a bit more. And what it does is allows development to occur in all across the city in certain neighborhoods because of zoning that perhaps had been very reticent to development prior to that. And that was a signature accomplishment for Mayor Eric Adams.
Yeah. And then, I mean,
We'll see
obviously,
if it ends up coming to fruition and like if all this housing is developed. But
Right.
the infrastructure, or I should like the ground has been laid.
Right.
Yeah. And then, crime, of course, which, crime is complicated because it's, different
the numbers.
Yeah. But, with if you talk about,
the numbers.
it depends on the category of crime you're talking about. But with homicide, the city just had 12 days without a homicide.
Do you want the numbers? The numbers.
No, we don't need them.
No, let's. I pulled up the numbers.
If
But-
she
no, no,
went
no.
all that work,
I don't
Let
want
me
all
just
your
talk
work
about the
together.
numbers. Okay, if we're going to talk about crime. So 2025, we always compare it to the pre-pandemic levels, like the 2017 year, Bill de Blasio. That's when like the record low crime, right? So back in 2024, this is some people might say, well, this is Jessica Tisch, but whatever. Maybe, whatever. Let me just say the numbers. So 2024 was 365 murders. So far this year, and this is ending the 7th of December, that's what we have thus far, 287.
so
365. I need glasses.
287.
365 to 287. Going back, where's my spreadsheet? To 2017, 292.
Right. So it's almost record
Record low.
low. And shootings, gun violence is like record lows.
The other number I pulled, whatever. So obviously I can't speak today. It's fine. Pulled was felony assaults because that's been a really tricky one for NYPD. Back in 2017, there was 20,052. So far, the number this year is 27,951. So they have not made as much progress in that particular crime category. But at the end of his tenure, Mayor Eric Adams, if these numbers holds,
The lowest. And he came in as the police mayor, right? Every mayor has like their thing, right? So Zora Mamdani is going to be the housing mayor, affordability. Mayor Adams came in as the police safety mayor, and that is what his number one goal was always from the beginning, especially with the people that he brought in, the loyalists. A lot of them were from the NYPD. So
And
I
he
think
could have
that's a success for him.
And he could have run on that, right?
Completely.
If everything else hadn't happened and he was running for re-election like a normal first-term mayor, he would have. That would have been a great record to run on. And you know what I used to talk about on the podcast? I used to say, and of course I was wrong, it was that if the mayor got rid of all the illegal cannabis shops, which now feels like 1,000 years ago.
I know, right? Just last year.
Or maybe I don't know, that was 2 years ago when there was the shops were everywhere.
I feel like they're still everywhere.
There are still. It's the problem has not been eradicated, but the mayor
They keep
made it a
popping up in
point.
my neighborhood.
Really?
I'm like, why is this one?
But the mayor said he was going to get rid of them, and he actually did, I think, something of an effective job in doing that. And I used to say, if he gets rid of the pot shops, and if he fixes the rat problem, then he can run on that, and he's going to get reelected.
Well, I think the crime numbers too, but I think there's clearly numbers that 5 away from the record. I don't know if it's hard to only have 5 murders
And the rest of the month?
but
Regardless, it's impressive.
very close. It's going to be real close.
I
for
mean,
them.
and that's right. That's the sad part of his legacy, right? Because all of us only think about all the corruption and everything that went wrong, but it's under that is all the good things. The crime numbers coming down, the housing, his good relationships with business, and really him elevating a lot of people of color in his administration that might have been overlooked
and
before.
women.
I was going to get there.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and women, that really have been a great part of his administration. I mean, who can forget Maria Torres Springer, who was one of his deputy mayors and became first deputy mayor. Now she's on mayor-elect Zora Mamdani's transition team. I mean, he did so many great things, and I think if the indictment had been, if everything had gone differently, I think it would have been an easy second term for him.
And migrant crisis we haven't talked about.
Oh, we did.
I mean, that was all we talked about for like a year and a
You
half.
talked about it. That's all I
migrant
talked
crisis.
Think
about.
about like the challenges that he has faced in the complex situation that he has faced over the course of his 4 years. When he took office, it was the beginning of 2022. We were still in
the
COVID.
Yeah.
Like restaurants still had like those,
The
shanty
outdoor,
things
yeah.
outside.
What'd you call
the
it?
shanty?
So you know what?
Yeah, outdoor dining. Like
We were
it's-
all screaming. We're like, still getting vaccinated.
You had to show
Yes.
your card. You had to show your
Yes.
vaccination card.
both
when
of
you went to
your
places.
doses. You had to wear a face mask. It's
He
so
couldn't even have an inauguration.
Yep.
because of COVID.
I mean, and it's crazy to think about, right? Because you think about a mayor usually gets one really big thing that happens to them in their 4 years. He had to come out of the pandemic with so many issues, from how does he bring back small businesses,
bring people back to the city,
and then bring people back, small businesses, people, make sure people are safe, crime, and then a year and a half later, he's hit with another crisis, which is all these people coming into the city, and how does he go about dealing with them and making sure that he's following the law, but also thinking about his city that's been here and has to continue. So, I mean, if you think about it, he really got two really big things, and he navigated the city through
the biggest challenges he did. It just so happened that he had some personal issues that maybe screwed him up along the way. To put it bluntly. Okay, I think we're going to have to leave it there. Do you guys have some final thoughts before we move on? I want to give you Kelly especially. Maybe not Bobby, but let's give Kelly the final word.
You know what? I'm just excited to see where he goes next, where he ends up. You know, to me, it's a full closure for me because I covered him in Borough Hall. So I will say that it's a little bit bittersweet because I've been with this man for so long that I'm like, it's wild. I mean, the last story I did on him before I covered him as mayor was he became a vegan, and I went to Borough Hall and I saw his gym at Borough Hall. He made like this his smoothies. That's when he started his green smoothies. So it's like wild. I'm like, oh my gosh, this man has been such a big part of my political life. I'm like, to me, it's like a full on like new, fresh thing. So it's very interesting to me.
Oh, one thing we have to say.
I'm gonna slightly miss. You know, I'm as a busy person, I'm like, I'm so used to his schedule now that I'm like ready to go out of my house at like 9 o'clock in the morning. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Like now I'm just like, what do I do? I have so much time. Like, and so it's going to be a huge difference for myself.
One last thing we have to say about Mayor Adams: focus, no distractions, and grind. That
Final
was his
thought.
motto.
There you go. Final thought. Okay. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will discuss the race for governor. Okay, moving on to the race for governor. Bruce Blakeman. Some of our listeners, I think they probably know who he is, but we'll just describe who he is anyway. He is Nassau County executive. He's been there for a number of years. He's run for a bunch of offices before. I think for Congress, for state controller. At one point, he ran for mayor.
He ran for mayor. I had forgotten that until I was
There's like really
reading
good
about
archive footage of his like ads and stuff. Yeah. Because I spent a lot of time, not a lot, but I spent some time out in Nassau County, but for casinos and stuff, because he was pushing some casino out there in the Nassau Coliseum. Anyway, so he disrupted, and he's kind of a disrupted the race for governor this week by announcing he's going to run and primary the person who people thought was just going to be crowned the Republican nominee in this contest, upstate Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. So it's really just a question of who's going to out-MAGA one another. We're just going to be a calm...
That's what Kathy Hochul said.
And then the other thing about Bruce Blakeman is he also has a direct line to Trump. They're very close. They're that's what I'm saying. So they're like kind of perfectly matched if you think about it. Like if it was anybody else in the Republican Party, you'd be like, Elise still has it. But Bruce Blakeman is like the perfect person to primary because they're both heavyweights and they both have Trump's ear. They're both very close to him, can talk to him regularly. I mean, it was Bruce Blakeman who was in constant contact with Trump when the things were happening with the mayor. I mean, this is like this person is very in line with the Republican Party and could easily bring out vulnerabilities in Elise Stefanik.
And the president is not weighed in, and when he's been asked about it repeatedly over the last week, he's kind of been like, she's a nice guy, girl. He didn't say girl. They're both great.
Yeah, so they're great. He's great. She's great.
Right? Like, he's not going to endorse anybody. And he hasn't told Bruce Blakeman that, like, no, it's Elise's turn, which is what I think a lot of people thought was going to happen behind the scenes, because we knew that Blakeman was going to run, and we thought that maybe it would just get killed by Washington.
And like you said, there was a sense that she was just going to be crowned the nominee, and that sense, including from the Republican Party here in New York, I mean, they were kind of, I don't want to say blindsided, because we all knew that Blakeman was interested in running. Yeah. But they thought she had it wrapped up. She has the support of, like, I don't know, most of the county Republican leaders. And, you know, you hear, like, Ed Cox, who's the head of the state Republican Party, he, even now, after Blakeman announced, he's like, she's still going to, you know, there's not going to be a primary. Yeah. Like, he's going to get out. And they have a convention in February. So he's like, after the convention, he'll be out. We're not going to have a primary. So Stefanik is really like the candidate of choice. And that's what makes the race interesting is that he's the spoiler who's coming in.
I want to just bring up what's in the background of this, right? Elise Stefanik was initially tapped to be the ambassador to the United Nations. And that unfortunately didn't go the way she wanted. And so this was kind of the second thing for her. And she thought, nobody's going to be in my way. Now I will get something. And so it's kind of, for her, it's like, I chose something else after the first option didn't go through. And she really wanted to be the ambassador to the United Nations.
Yeah, they basically pulled her nomination.
Yes, because
they
wanted to
who would run for her seat. To hold on to her seat.
Exactly.
There's such a slim majority.
And even remember, Mike Lawler was thinking about running for governor.
He went,
and he moved over so she could have that lane and have something for herself. And then to have Bruce Blakeman come in, you're just like, she keeps on getting these obstacles from her own party where she's just like,
right. It's like, what does she get for it after all this loyalty to Trump for the past? She is like as MAGA as they get. She has been totally tied herself to Trump. But it's also worth mentioning, like, yes, she thought this was going to be her big shot. But there's no guarantee she's going to win. I mean, if anything, she's like a massive underdog in this race because Kathy Hochul.
You're talking about the general. I was like,
the primary.
No, I was like, wait a minute.
Well, and she's a favorite against Blakeman, too.
She's the favorite in the primary, but she comes from the North Country, and we're talking like North Country. Like, yeah, she's known in the city a little bit, but I think she was down here visiting, and I can't remember if it was Bernadette who rode the subway with her. I'm pretty sure. She was down here maybe with Sean Duffy, and it sounded like Elise Stefanik didn't really know the ins and outs of the subway. And who would blame her? Right, because she's from the North Country. So, of course, how many times do you ride the Q train? But it was quite clear that she was going to have a lot of work to do in the 5 boroughs to really try to boost some turnout. And then you have Long Island. Long Island is the power base of the Republican Party in New York State. And who was at the top of that power base but Bruce Blakeman? Like, a lot of the votes that happen in any Republican primary are going to come from Nassau and Suffolk County.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only Republican congressmen from New York are out of that county are on Long Island.
They're upstate too, at least, but like
that's
just the power base.
Yes,
that is the power base is Long Island.
And Blakeman just won re-election with, I think he won by like 10 points at least.
Yeah, when Democrats have started to make some inroads back into Nassau County a little bit, at least when you saw.
And Blakeman is, it's funny. I was with all the coverage of Blakeman, I was reading about his relationship with Trump, and Trump at his rally in the Bronx last year, 2 years ago, last year. I forget when the presidential race was. He said he was talking. I guess he was introducing Blakeman, and he said, "This guy's from Central Casting. Like, if I was going to do a movie about a politician, this is the guy who I would have." So, like, and we know Trump, like, appearances are what. Well, yeah. And Blakeman is kind of like the stereotypical Republican, like, old white guy candidate, right? Like, he is. He's Central Casting, and
let's just like Queens, Long Island, Nassau. Like, there's an overlap in like the character of Trump and Blakeman a little bit, like in terms of like, do they? I don't want to say do they have a spray tan, but like they hang out on Long Island and then they go to Florida. Like, it's that guy.
Yes, they golf together. Yeah. And they're actually close in age. They're only a few years apart.
But Blakeman does have some. I mean, he has some appeal, I think, to like even a general election electorate because he's also MAGA, and on a lot of this stuff, like he was very big on the trans sports thing,
he's passed laws in Nassau,
and on ICE, he's like been encouraging cooperation with ICE. There's this other story, remember, where he was deputizing private citizens to like do law enforcement. It was like a militia that he was starting. But then he's also pro-choice, and he's kind of moderate, which is that is an important issue for a lot of people. And he's moderate on gun control. Like, there's some issues where
those other positions are going to be pretty controversial in a general election.
Yeah, but I think you could see him as more moderate than Stefanik. And if you win, if you're popular in Long Island, I think that's a good. It's like a bellwether too. I think of what, but he's got less name recognition. Anyway, it could be a really interesting race.
I mean, technically, you would say, like, in the city, technically Blakeman and Stefanik have the same amount of name recognition, so they both would have to work for that here. But
it's also a gift to Kathy Hochul, right? Because I mean, that's what everybody was saying this week. Like, nothing better could have happened for Kathy Hochul, because up until this point, it was Stefanik, just bashing her.
Yep.
Like viciously.
Yep.
And then now all of a sudden Stefanik has to like
She has to, she's distracted.
Aim in a different direction, attack Blakeman. So she's distracted for like months.
Yeah, until the primary is over.
If this goes till June.
Yeah.
And that just like eats up money, resources, attention, time. So there's a reason why people like Ed Cox and leaders in the Republican Party are saying, we don't want this primary and we're going to resolve it, because they think that there would somehow be a formidable challenge against Hochul in the fall with Stefanik at the top of the ticket. And there's historical, there's proof behind that. I mean, the last gubernatorial race 3 years ago, I guess, with Lee Zeldin, Kathy Hochul seeking a full term, ended up being way
Really
closer
close.
than we all expected. It was like 6 points.
I was
going
going
to
to say 6 points.
So even though, it's New York, we don't have Republican governors, like we did, it's been a while, it's been a couple decades, but George Pataki served for a really long time, and it is possible that there could be a very formidable challenge from
and if you think about Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, some people might like the appeal of a Republican governor
as
with
a
such
yeah,
exactly.
Wait,
so
but also-
that dynamic is at play as well.
Blakeman has, I've read this week, and I had kind of missed this, that at some point this year, Blakeman said if Mamdani won, he was going to build a wall between Nassau County and New York City.
Yes.
But yeah, so like,
I don't know, I live close to there, where but like try to, there's some like random stuff that we end up going, our this garden place that we go to every spring is like right over the border, like go into 5 towns from Rockaway. I'm like thinking, like, what if there's like a Nassau County cop there, like checking your ID at the border, being like, you can't go buy plants here.
Somebody made a good point though, which is that in 2022, when Zeldin almost, came close to winning, he ran on crime. That was his whole thing, was that crime, crime was out of control, and Kathy Hochul was soft on crime, and you can't really run on that as much anymore with crime down. And, it's like, I feel like Democrats are much less vulnerable on that. Can I just tell you one?
Last thought, this is it.
Yeah, no, this is good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it better be, because now we're going over. So this better be like the best comment ever.
Fun fact about Bruce Blakeman, which I don't think a lot of people know, his ex-wife, do you know who she is?
No, I don't.
Nancy Chevelle, who used to be Nancy Blakeman, is ex-wife. I met her because I used to cover transit, and she was an MTA board member like years and years ago. I don't think she's a board member anymore. They got divorced.
Okay.
Do you know who Nancy Chevelle is now married to?
No.
Paul McCartney.
Oh, that is kind of
Paul McCartney's wife used to be married to Bruce Blakeman, which is like weird.
All politics is local. All politics is local.
I mean, that doesn't.
Our outro is going to have to be some Beatles. Okay. All right. That's going to have to do it for this week's episode. You can always watch us on Inside City Hall Monday through Friday at 7. We love your feedback. Send us an email at yourstoryNewYork1@charter.com. You can subscribe to Off Topic wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you're hearing, leave a review. Thanks to our producer, Anthony Roman. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you next week.